The horror genre has given birth to a smorgasbord of malicious villains over the years. When an evildoer slays for enjoyment, eats their victims, or has a kill count hitting the triple digits, it goes without saying that they are beyond salvation. For this reason, it's jarring when a bona fide psychopath performs an act that is, for lack of a better word, nice? It may be hard to picture, but even the most reprehensible and merciless villains have moments where they choose not to be evil. So, with that in mind, I'm Sean Barrick for What Culture Horror, and here are 10 times horror movie villains chose not to be evil. Number 10. Feeding the cat Thanksgiving. Rather than slaughtering anyone who tickles their fancy, some murderers only target specific people. If a potential victim doesn't fit the criteria, they're off limits, which brings us to Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. During a Black Friday sale, a riot breaks out in the store, resulting in multiple deaths. 1 year later, a mysterious figure wearing a John Carver mask starts butchering anyone who played a part in the tragic event. Carver's code of honor is apparent when he goes after Manny, the security guard who abandoned his post during the sale. Believing he'll be on the killer's hit list, Manny packs his things, ready to leave the country. However, just before he has a chance to flee, Carver infiltrates his apartment and lops Manny's head off. As Carver is about to leave, he stops dead in his tracks upon noticing Manny's cat. If this killer was a true monster, he would gut the kitty just to satiate his bloodlust. Instead, he tops up the cat's food bowl, making sure our furry friend has enough to eat. Sure, this killer cooks a woman alive later on and serves her up on a platter to her family, but this feline moment proves he's not all bad. Number 9. Carrie White spares Miss Jardon. Carrie, 2013. This Stephen King adaptation centers around high school teen Carrie White, who's relentlessly tormented by her Queen Bee classmates and her zealous mother. But when she suddenly develops telekinesis, Carrie realizes she's able to defend herself for the first time in her life. After being drenched in pig's blood at prom by her fellow students, Carrie is left utterly humiliated. Refusing to be degraded any further, she unleashes her powers on the whole school, killing everybody except for one. Every time Carrie was belittled or chastised, her gym teacher, Miss Rita Jardon, was there to comfort her. She'd also had Carrie's bullies punished with detentions and suspensions, proving she would do everything that she could to protect the disheartened teenager. So when Carrie goes on her little massacre during the third act, she makes sure Jardon remains unharmed. In fact, Carrie saves her life, since she uses her psychic abilities to throw the tutor out of the way of falling electrical wires. Carrie may have been unable to control her rage, but at least she spared the one person who ever showed her kindness. Number 8. Jason lets the punks off with a warning. Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. All anybody has to do to suffer Jason Voorhees' wrath is to get in his way, meaning only a select few have survived an encounter with the hockey mask-wearing Revenant. However, one group got lucky when they bumped into Jason in Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. While chasing a young Rennie through the Big Apple, Jason passes by a bunch of punks and kicks over their boombox, causing the punks to whip out their switchblades ready to throw down. Rather than pulverizing the gang to a pulp, Jason slides his mask up, revealing his rotting face. Out of fear and disgust, the punks do a runner, allowing Jason to resume his hunt. Now, it could be argued that Jason didn't off these guys since he was already more concerned with catching up with Rennie, but the machete-wielding maniac goes after somebody else on multiple occasions, giving Rennie enough time to get away. Whatever the reason, this is among the only times Jason didn't give in to his murderous instincts. Number 7. Chucky exacts revenge on Nika's behalf. Cult of Chucky. Few of Chucky's victims could have it worse than Nika Pierce. Not only did he eviscerate her entire family in Curse of Chucky, the fiendish figurine had her framed for his crimes, leading to her being institutionalized. Somehow, Chucky believed Nika hadn't suffered enough, so in Cult of Chucky, the dastardly doll breaks into the medical facility and begins hacking up patients and staff with the intention of performing a voodoo spell to transfer his soul into Nika's body. Even though Chucky is evil incarnate, Cult of Chucky really highlights the diminutive serial killer at his absolute worst. Ironically, this entry also demonstrates Chucky at his most compassionate. In the climax, Chucky possesses Nika's body, regaining his humanity for the first time in decades. Although he has the perfect opportunity to escape, Chucky can't leave until he punishes Nika's facilitator, Dr. Foley, who's abused her psychologically and sexually on numerous occasions. Standing over Foley in his new form, Chucky says, "This is for Nika," before stomping the doc's skull to a pulp. Despite the fact Chucky murdered Nika's family and took over her body, Chucky had a shred of empathy for the poor girl, compelling him to slay her tormentor. Number 6. Michael Spares the Baby, Halloween 2018. Michael Myers, the well-known trustworthy babysitter of Haddonfield, proves that he may not be entirely evil when he spares the life of a crying baby in 2018's fantastic Halloween. While the film goes a long way to prove just how brutal a person this monster is, he decides not to plunge his trademark knife into the newborn as he stalks through the house. This is a little odd, as not 10 seconds before he had beaten the child's presumed mother to death with a hammer, as he was generally wont to do. So, walking through the house with his usual stoic poise, he pauses over the crib for a moment, just a moment, as the baby cries out. Then, knife in hand, he leaves the house, heading out into the Halloween night, ready to kill the next person over the age of 5 that he sees. Michael may be many things, but apparently even he has limits. Having said all that, there is still the chance that no one may have found the baby, but no, we're sure Michael put in a call to the authorities in the next house that he invaded. He's good like that. Number 5. The trucker rescues kids. Duel. Steven Spielberg's Duel opens with businessman David Mann cutting off a tanker truck on the open road. Rather than shaking his fist and letting it go, the unseen trucker takes David's actions extremely personally. For the next several hours, the truck driver smashes into David's car, blocks his path, and forces him into oncoming traffic. When David stops to let his tyrannical tailgater pass him, he refuses, hoping to drag out the cat-and-mouse game as long as possible. Considering all David did was cut him off, this guy truly has one of the pettiest villain origin stories ever. Having said that, there's a moment when the anonymous adversary proves he's not completely malevolent. At one point, David notices a bus full of kids is dangerously close to a cliff, and although he tries to help, David flees when he sees his stalker on the horizon. Rather than going straight for David, the trucker rams the bus away from the cliff, saving the children's lives. Despite acting like a lunatic for the majority of the film, it's likely the kids would have perished if this mad motorist didn't intervene. Number 4. The Predator joins the humans, Aliens vs. Predator. Despite being savage and bloodthirsty, the Yautja tribe, aka Predators, are not without honor. Even though they kill for sport and turn their victims' skulls into trophies, the dreadlocked extraterrestrials have profound respect for their prey. Although this has been showcased throughout the franchise, it's most apparent in Paul W.S. Anderson's crossover Alien vs. Predator. At first, the mandibled beasties are so preoccupied with defeating the xenomorphs, they perceive the humans as a mere nuisance. But when the Predator Scar sees scientist Lex kills a rival alien, the pair agree to join forces. To give Lex the best chance of survival, Scar fashions a weapon and shield for her made from a xenomorph's remains. At first, it could be argued Scar doesn't care about Lex and is merely using her to fulfill his own needs. But after the duo clear the xenomorph's domain, the Predator brands Lex with a war scar to prove he sees her as an equal. In this moment, it's easy to forget these are the same creatures who skin bodies and rip out spines for fun. Number 3. The vampire refuses to feed on Arash. A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Promoted as the first Iranian vampire western, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night follows down-on-his-luck worker Arash, whose life takes a dark turn after a chance encounter with an unnamed vampiric woman. When this beautiful bloodsucker isn't busy skateboarding through the streets, she's terrifying children, biting off fingers, and feeding on the innocent. Due to her callousness, she sounds like a pretty typical vampire, apart from the skateboarding bit. However, when the vamp meets Arash, she finds herself drawn to him, and not just for his blood. Though they don't sleep together or kiss, their chemistry proves there's romance brewing between them. Having said that, the relationship seems doomed from the start, since it's only a matter of time before her urges get the better of her. After all, she couldn't control herself around Arash's father, compelling her to suck him dry. But that isn't the case with Arash. Despite every impulse screaming at her to feed on him, she refuses to, even when her boyfriend displays his exposed neck. The fact she's able to maintain self-control around Arash highlights just how much she cares for him. Number 2. Slowick lets Margo go. The Menu. In this Will Ferrell-produced horror, yes, really, a gourmet lover hires an escort called Margo to join him at a hyper-exclusive restaurant, led by visionary chef Julian Slowick. Shortly after arriving, Slowick reveals each guest was personally selected since they're responsible in one way or another for him losing his passion for cooking. After the final course is served, Slowick intends to have the guests and staff join him in a suicide pact. Now, it's pretty obvious Slowick is insane, he tells one guest, who is an actor. He was chosen to die simply because Slowick didn't like one of his movies. And when Slowick orchestrates a fake police rescue to give the guests hope, there's no question he's out of his mind. Due to his unwavering contempt for the patrons, it seems unfeasible for anyone to convince Slowick to let them walk out alive. However, Margo figures out how to appease the crazed cuisinaire. Earlier, Margo spotted a photo of Slowick as a young and optimistic cook, working at a greasy spoon diner. When she orders a hamburger and fries, Slowick feels the same passion he had when he got into the food business and allows her to leave. Not only was Margo the sole survivor of Slowick's Last Supper, she got a free burger for her troubles. Bon appetit. Number 1. Hannibal mutilates himself over Clarice. Hannibal. In Thomas Harris's novels and movie adaptations, Hannibal Lecter is renowned for his manipulation skills, his keen insight into the criminal psyche, and obviously his fondness for eating people, before washing it down with a nice Chianti. However, the psychotic psychiatrist is also known for having a deep respect for FBI agent and personal rival Clarice Starling. Of course, since Hannibal is off his rocker, it's challenging to figure out if his affection for Clarice is genuine, or that he constantly mocks her family and upbringing suggests his so-called love is another elaborate mind game. But in 2001's Hannibal, the titular cannibal proves that what he feels for Clarice is more than infatuation. In the final scene, the federal agent handcuffs herself to Lecter just as the authorities are closing in on him. Picking up a cleaver, Hannibal says, "Below or above the wrist," suggesting he's about to slice Clarice's hand off to escape. Instead, he hacks his own hand off, allowing him to evade the law once again. Hannibal's fondness for Clarice may be twisted, but his actions here prove his feelings for her are the real deal. That's everything for our list today, folks. Thank you so much for listening and watching along. You have been awesome. I have been Sean. You can follow me on the various socials at Sean Ferrick. Please make sure that you're following at What Culture Horror on the various socials as well. Until I see you again, you look after yourself, because you deserve it. I will talk to you soon. Thanks very much. Bye.